Hey guys, welcome back to Backseat Driver. I'm Julian, he's Desmond, and he's Jonathan. And today we're going to talk about the differences between buying a car and leasing slash renting a car. So, what's your question again? You said you wanted to ask us.
What's the difference between renting and leasing?
I think renting is short term, right?
Yeah, I think
Leasing
renting is
long term.
probably the very short term kind. Like let's say you want to rent for like 2 weeks, a couple of days. And I think leasing is generally a slightly longer period. I don't know off the top of my head, but something like let's say you want to lease for a year, 2 years, that kind.
And I think leasing has better plans as well. Plans, I mean, as in, if you do the math, renting will be more expensive, lah. I think. I think leasing will be. They have different packages that can actually. It's quite bang for buck, man.
Yeah, and I suppose the other thing about leasing is that that's what some people do as far as private hires are concerned, lah. So the cars that they drive, they're actually leasing from the company that owns all these cars.
Oh, okay. Because I hear people rent their car for private hire. So in actual fact, they're actually
They're probably leasing for private hire lah. Because rentals, generally we think of rentals as very short term, like ad hoc kind, where you can rent
Chinese
for
New Year.
you need it for 2 weeks, for 1 week, maybe a month max. But yeah, that's probably the difference.
yeah. What's stopping more people from leasing? Because I assume Singaporeans mostly just buy their cars.
I think people would want to buy a car rather than lease. And I'm just speaking from my own experience, is that I think people would like to be they would like to own their own car. They like to say that, you know what, this car belongs to me. I'm accountable for this car. You know, I all my hard-earned money, my savings and blah blah blah, I actually blew it on this car and it belongs to me. I can do whatever I want to do with this car. I can mod my car, I can go trekking, I can, you know, drive like a maniac, and if anything were to happen, that's fine. I'm accountable for it. But I think if you lease a car, there are certain limitations to it. You obviously can't modify it. You
Not at
can't.
all, ah.
I don't think you can, because you won't be the only one leasing the car. Like after your lease ends in maybe 2.5 years, someone else might probably
I'm
need
sure
the
it's
car.
written into the contract that
Yeah,
you're
and
not
I,
allowed
and, I, and I think if you
mess
happen
with
to
the
have
car.
like, you know, this car, like I saw this hatchback, Mazda 3 hatchback, and I really like it. Estina variant is just top notch, but it's maybe white color. And then my feng shui master say, you know what, you can't drive white cars, you need to have it in black. And I just want this Mazda 3. I can't take the car and just, you know, go to a workshop and spray it black. I've got a pretty sure I kind of need to, like, the color has to stay original. So I think that's probably so you can't customize your car if you lease. But there are several good options, right? If you lease a car.
I'm sure. I mean, I think the big difference between leasing and owning a car, I think, is primarily that sense of ownership. So I think in Singapore, admittedly, cars still bring with it a certain level of status lah, to say, you know, "Well, I can own my own car." So I think that is something that still,
But nobody will know that the car I'm driving is leased or.
I guess that's partially true, but at the same time, I think it's also the act of buying your car, right? You sort of say, okay lah, I'm a
Boasting rights.
full-grown adult now. I mean, it's also a personal thing, right? You say, oh, you know, I can own my own vehicle now. So I think that's the ownership part of it. So on the leasing part of it, I think you made a very good point, which is that I think there are some obvious benefits to leasing. So you obviously get more options, more choices, right? Because your commitment period is a lot lower. Whether you lease for a year, 6 months, 2 years, it's still significantly less than a 10-year COE cycle if you own a car for 10 years. So I think there's that. The flip side, of course, like you said, is the financial aspect also. I think maybe why some people might be put off by leasing is just the fact that, you know, you see, hey, wow, my monthly so much more than if I buy the car and I calculate a DPR, right? But then of course there's also a question of, can you afford to buy a car? Because if you're buying a car, you're looking at 30% upfront, 40% upfront, you know, and that's, no matter how we cut it, right, that's going to be a big sum of money, a big number that not everyone can swallow. So if you want to have the usage of a car, but you don't think you need it for 10 years, and you don't really see yourself be able to come out with, like, let's say 40,000 upfront, then I think leasing gives you a level of flexibility that owning a car cannot.
But I know that like Audi has Audi on demand. They have a list of cars, quite a wide variety of range. a rather wide variety of cars on their website, where you can choose. So this sorts of program has got its advantages. The first one is, if I'm if I'm cash ready right now, I want to buy my dream car, I want to buy an Audi, but I don't really know what kind of model I want to buy it. I've got a family, maybe I'm thinking A4, but A4 could be too small. I might need an A6, right? So I can't just throw my 40% down and say, you know what, let's just buy an A4. If it's a mistake, I'm going to lose like a lot of money. So that's where the leasing comes in. So these programs allow people to try out different cars before committing to them. So if I go Audi on demand, I can try an A4. If I feel like, it's just not for me, that's fine. I can just return the car and take the A6 and then realize that, oh, okay, you know what, maybe the A4 was better. Just let's return the A6 and get the A4. I'll buy the A4 now. So that's one thing. I remember several years ago when I went for a 7 Series launch with BMW, they actually brought along this financer who actually explained to us about their leasing programs. And I think upon calculating everything, I spoke to the guy. It was actually slightly cheaper than buying a car. So that sort of gives you an option. So BMW sort of allows you to buy into their brand, buy into a luxury brand, let you experience it before committing. And I think the best of all is these programs sort of allow you to try out cars that you probably will never get to own. Cars like Z4, R8, or stuff like you just want to try it for a week or two. But of course you got to pay for it lah.
But it sounds too good to be true. If leasing a BMW is cheaper than owning one, why would anybody want to buy a BMW? Why don't everyone just lease it?
Because like what Desmond said, I think it's the sense of ownership.
It's a sense of ownership, and I think the other side of it is that there's no guarantee that that's the car that you want, right? Because essentially, okay, so I think we need to differentiate leasing in sort of two broad categories lah. So I think one, we have your brands that are doing their sort of in-house own leasing, and then the other one is you have like leasing companies lah. So with these leasing companies, they own a portfolio of cars, right? So let's say they own 50 Avantis / Mazda 3 / Altis. So they have that sort of in their inventory to move anytime they want. With these premium brands who are also doing these leasing programs, I'm quite sure they're not going to own, let's say BMW, they're not going to own 53 series just waiting for people to lease. They may be going to have 3 or 4, right? So maybe they have limited numbers of each model. So if let's say you're looking to getting into these leasing programs with some of these brands, there's no guarantee you can get the car you want, right? Because who knows if the car's available. Secondly, there's no guarantee you can get it for the length that you want. Let's say you want it for 1 year, but maybe they only have it for a 6-month period because either someone else has booked it for another 6-month period, or maybe the car is just being moved into the second-hand market or something like that. So I think that the availability is going to be a challenge. And then secondly is the sort of the personal aspect of it, which is, let's say you buy a 3 Series, right? Maybe you want a 3 Series in a particular kind of trim, color, engine option, interior equipment, that kind of thing, right? So if you're buying a car, obviously you have that choice. With leasing,
you don't.
Maybe you don't lah. Maybe you could find that specific specification that you are looking for, but ultimately you are limited by what is available to you. So I think that sense of, hey, this is my personal choice of car in the way I want it to be is also missing. So maybe that's why people don't immediately get into this leasing thing, which is quite sort of strange in a sense, because in places like Europe, that is primarily that's quite a big part of the business model, right? Leasing programs are actually a big part of the car ownership in Europe.
So why isn't it bigger here?
I think again, like what Desmond said, I think it's like
a cultural thing also.
I think not just that. I mean, it's like a status.
It's
still a
the one thing
symbol.
to own a car, to be able to say, oh, this is mine. And I think the second part is probably also because of COE lah. So from a brand's perspective, the financial sense of holding a large fleet of vehicles, I think
it's too big a risk for the company.
It's a big financial outlay for them also lah. So I don't think that's why. It's probably another reason.
I mean, if you think about it, right? I wonder if we are thinking about this wrongly. I think we are thinking that leasing is not We are not for leasing because, you know, you can't customize the car, you know, I can't mod the car, I can't go trekking, I can't do this, I can't do that. But I think that's because leasing does not target people like us.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a big difference. Like I think ultimately it also comes down to how you see yourself using the car, right? And I think that's the big difference between owning and leasing, which is I think leasing obviously is a shorter term commitment, shorter term period. So I think if you, let's say you need a car for a year, for 2 years, maybe you could be expat coming to Singapore, or you are in a phase of life where, okay, maybe you had your first kid and then you realize, okay, shit, I need to sort of send my kid around. Then, and you are sort of not too fast about, oh, I must own the car. You know, you're just thinking of it as 4 wheels and a roof to get you around. Then I think leasing is a sort of is an attractive option for people.
If you're not worried about how people perceive you, like, oh, this guy is driving an Altis, like, oh, you know, if you're not the kind of brand horse, you know, you don't worry about what other people think about you, I think leasing would probably be for you. I think leasing is a very smart, viable option. It doesn't bog you down for 10 years. You get to drive your family around in a very fuss-free manner. You just pay one amount, and that one amount probably includes road tax, insurance, your installments. I don't know how the servicing works, to be honest. I think different companies have got different ways of servicing.
Probably it's included.
It's all in the contract. It's probably different, but I just have to make one payment. I don't have to worry about, oh man, my road tax is due. Oh, I got to do insurance. Oh, I got to do what do you call it? Inspection. There's a lot of things as a car owner you got to do. But I think if you lease a car, all these are essentially
fuss-free
out the
in that sense.
window. Yeah.
The other thing when we talk about the cost factor, right, which is that, yes, okay, let's say you're saying the Altis where you lease is 1.6 a month and then you buy your Dipri maybe is 900. That is true, right? That is objectively true. But if you think about it, let's say you lease for a year, that's still going to be cheaper. Even if you lease for 2 years, 3 years, that's still going to be cheaper than buying a car, because once you calculate it up, right, yes, your money might be more, but ultimately your total sum that you are going to spend on that car is less. So if you don't need a car for 10 years, that I think leasing is a reasonable option.
Like you said, it's a very big financial commitment. Cars in Singapore are very expensive, so I think leasing would be a better option first, before having a better feel of what your finances are.
I mean, it
before
gives you
jumping
time to
into it,
figure
right?
things out. That's, I think,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
sort of the halfway point between not having a car and then owning a car, which is that, okay, you lease and then you give yourself 1 year to figure out, hey, is this for me? Do I like driving? I mean, the other problem with driving, of course, is that you have to deal with all the hassle that comes with driving, right? You have to deal with traffic, you have to deal with parking, you need to pay your season parking, you need to top up your cash card, you need to deal with traffic jams, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of additional things that come with it. So yeah, that's definitely something to consider.
Guys, we're SG Car Mart. We cannot say don't buy car.
Yeah.
No, it's okay because people still buy car.
It's because we believe in honesty. We believe in being honest.
No, I mean,
so you can actually
Let's
get an
be
idea.
real, right? I mean, everyone knows the sums, and the sums are very simple. Owning a car is more expensive than not owning a car.
Of course.
If you Grab everywhere, it's
It'll
still
still be cheaper.
cheaper than owning a car, buying
And
a
you know
car.
how difficult it can be to call a Grab with your kids. You gotta bring your own child seat, and the driver has
See,
the
that's
child
so
seat.
that's the buy a car argument,
know,
which
but-
is that
but
that gives you
Even
all
if
that.
I flag down a comfort taxi everywhere I go with my kids, it's still gonna be cheaper than owning a car. The only difference is you cannot discount convenience. I've got like a backpack, and I got to carry the, I don't know, the stroller and all that kind of stuff. It's honestly a bit inconvenient if I were to do all this and lug into a taxi every time I go from place to place. So I can't discount convenience, but let's get real, man. I mean, like you said, everybody knows the sums.
Yeah, everyone knows the sums.
But of course, if you want to find the best deal, SG Car Mart will definitely provide you the best deals. Yeah, right. So anyway, that's all we have for today's episode on Backseat Driver. Today we just talked about buying versus leasing. We did digress a little bit, but I think it's something that you guys should also find out a little bit more. You guys should actually know. If you want to know more about all these, you can actually hop onto SG Car Mart's article section on the Advice tab. We actually talked a little bit about renting and leasing a car or buying a car. What are the sums? What you need to know, what you need to prepare. Yes, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please do comment in the comment box below and let us know whether or not you will buy or lease a car. Also, please follow us on TikTok at SG Khamat. In the meantime, stay safe, be well. Bye bye.